Good evening and welcome everybody. Toby here from Lux Tours. A big welcome to wherever you're screening in across the world, whether it's here in New Zealand or Australia, but also welcome to our friends in the United States or the UK if you're still awake. In the UK, probably just waking up, but a big welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. Tonight we're talking about our 3-day Milford Sound backcountry tour, all explained for you in depth, and we have a very special guest from Lux Tours. I'll introduce him very, very shortly. We'll bring him up on the screen. But just to talk about what we will be covering tonight, so we're focusing on ourselves a wee bit. So completely biased to Lux Tours, we're focusing on our 3-day tour. This is a tour that we introduced this time last year. It started in around October last year. I had a very successful first season, and we're bringing it back for 2026-27. It is a wee bit of a complex tour, maybe for some people to get their heads around it. Planning as part of your New Zealand trip, it could possibly be a wee bit overwhelming. And so the aim of the webinar is to smooth out some of the questions that you have and really dig deep into the flow of the tour. That's our focus tonight. So we'll be talking about what is different about this tour, why it's a unique experience and a different way to see Milford Sound via a backcountry route. It's a 3-day tour. We'll talk about each of those days, including what's included in the tour, the hotel, the transport, and then we'll give a wee bit of a summary, I guess, on why this tour. We will also have a Q&A session, live Q&A session at the end. So feel free to put your questions into the comments wherever you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. And we have our marketing manager, Demi, who's sitting in the background. She will answer some of those questions live as we go along, but we'll bring up most of them at the end and answer them live on the webinar as well. Feel free to comment, particularly if you've done the tour, share your experience with that. We'd love to hear how you found it. But yeah, any questions, just put them into the chat. So I'm Toby, I'm the owner of Lux Tours. We're a family-owned, locally operated tour business here in Te Anau, Fiordland. We operate mainly day tours out of Te Anau and Queenstown to Milford Sound, but we also have this 3-day option via the beautiful Walter Peak, which we'll be talking about tonight. My wife, Caitlin, is the other co-owner of Lux Tours. I can't convince her to jump on a webinar yet, but a big shout out to her. And together we look after a team of around 14 people here at Lux Tours now. Now, without further ado, we'll introduce our very special guest, our lead guide here at Lux Tours, Murray. Murray, over to you. Give a quick intro.
Yeah, hi folks. Murray tuning in tonight. Been roped in for another webinar. Not quite sure how I feel about that, but anyway, we'll boots to the ground and we'll get on with it. I've been fortunate, I guess, working with Lux Tours for the last 2.5 years and mainly traveling into Milford Sound on a day tour. But a couple of years ago, we were having a bit of a brainstorming session and we kind of got around to talking about this Walter Peak and the Vaughan River Valley and a backcountry journey. And as is often the case with these discussions, little seeds planted and Toby and Caitlin run away and design something and put it together and came back a few months later and said, "Hey, Murray, what do you reckon about this? And by the way, we've already got the all-wheel drive coach ordered and it's on the way, so you'll be doing it." So lots of fun, beautiful countryside, and it's more of a summertime tour, this one. I think, when are we kicking off, Toby? November this year.
Yeah, 1st of November. So we don't operate this tour in winter. Now is a good example, actually. Look, quite a bit of snow around. Quite a bit of heavy rain around as well with the springtime weather that we get in New Zealand. It pushes in off the Tasman Sea between us and our friends from Australia. Thank you to all you Aussies out there who blow the rain our way, or you bask in the sunshine. We get it over our west coast mountains, and this area that we travel through to Walter Peak is kind of exposed to that same weather. So pretty good example at the moment of why we're not operating. Heavy rain around and quite a bit of snow as well. Folks, we just want to take you through, I guess, the general flow of the tour before we go too far, but we will be exploring each aspect of this tour as we go through. But basically it starts in Queenstown. Now, just like Murray said, we wanted to find a different way to experience Milford Sound that's slowed down. So if you're coming from Queenstown, you really only have 1 or 2 options. The main one is a day tour. That is typically a 12 to 13 hour day from Queenstown. Your other option is to do the overnight cruise in Milford or Doubtful Sound, and that obviously is around 24 to 30 hours, depending on where exactly you're leaving from. But we wanted a way that people could experience Milford Sound, but also this beautiful backcountry route via Walter Peak. Now, a lot of you have maybe heard of the TSS Earnshaw boat, which you'll see up there in the top left corner. Beautiful old steamship operating on Lake Whakatipu in Queenstown, currently owned and run by our friends at Real NZ. Beautiful way to experience the lake there, head over to Walter Peak and do the lunch. And that's exactly what you'll do on the tour. Along with your luggage as well. And then at that point, you'll be picked up after the lunch by Lux Tours. We'll take you via the backcountry route that we're about to explore. We provide accommodation as part of the tour. And then the next day, day two, is a full day tour to Milford Sound from Te Anau. So the big benefit here, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, Murray, is the ability to slow down and do Milford Sound from Te Anau on the second day. So you're actually cutting off about 4 to 5 hours of driving for your Milford Sound experience. At the end of that day, we bring you back to Te Anau. You can add on things like the glowworms. We'll just go out for a nice, relaxing dinner. We'll recommend some spots that you can go to in Te Anau for dinner. We give you a little food guide to this area. Day three, you head back through the backcountry route to Walter Peak, and that's when we say goodbye and you head back on the Earnshaw with your luggage to Queenstown. Now, just to explain a wee bit about this route, so to give you context, if you've never been to Milford Sound, there is Milford Sound. Now, can't see the full map there, but it's on the west coast of the South Island of New Zealand. Here is Queenstown. Now you think, well, Milford Sound's not too far from Queenstown. Why do I have to drive around here? And that's because there are some very, very big mountains through this area. They're called the Southern Alps, and it is impossible to drive through there. There's no road. You could walk. It'll take you about 3 to 4 days. Might be slow going, but you could do that. But the main way that people experience Milford Sound from Queenstown is around 7:30 in the morning. Get on a tour van, just like we operate daily, and come down this road through to Te Anau and then up into Milford Sound. And this section here of the road is between Te Anau and Milford Sound is referred to as the Milford Road. It's a road that goes alpine, and at the moment, as Murray was telling me today, out there, full of snow, pretty beautiful out there, but can be a challenging road. This red road that cuts through from Walter Peak Station there, that is the route that we take on this backcountry tour. We are one of the very few tour operators that operate any sort of tour through here. There is also Trips and Tramps who do some sort of private shuttles and private options on the road, but we're sort of the only tour, I guess, that's doing a established, scheduled tour consistently through the summer with multiple guests. So you start in Queenstown, you come over on the Earnshaw, that's the dots across the lake to Walter Peak Station. A lot of you, if you're visiting Queenstown, will probably do this tour to Walter Peak Station on the Earnshaw anyway. The difference is instead of heading back on the Earnshaw, you jump in with us and we drive via that red road through the backcountry area called Vaughan Valley, as well as Mount Nicholas Station, one of the big stations in that area, past Mavora Lakes, which is a Lord of the Rings filming spot, and we do make a stop there, and through into the small township of Te Anau. And we use a special vehicle for this. It's a Mercedes Sprinter van, but it's a four-wheel drive van. So it's sort of specially designed for this road, and it tolerates the road very well. So day one, just getting in a bit more in depth here, folks. So you board the TSS Earnshaw at 11 a.m. in Queenstown. You check in, you bring your luggage with you, and the team at Real NZ who operate the Earnshaw will help you with your luggage. They'll tag the bag and they will look after it from that point. It will be put onto the boat. You can bring one large suitcase per guest and one carry-on bag. If you do have an extra bag, you can get in touch with us before your tour and we can let you know if that's going to be possible on your specific day that you're traveling. You head across the lake to Walter Peak, and then it's a barbecue buffet lunch, and the lunch is pretty damn good. I've had it a couple of times. It's lamb, chicken, pork, lots of New Zealand food. There's seafood, lots of salads and vegetables, all sorts of things, all cooked on the
Desserts.
barbecue. Yeah, lots of desserts. And we have some tables there that are put aside for Lux Tours guests to enjoy that lunch. After the lunch, you head through to a classic Kiwi farm and sheep show. So the sheepdogs out there demonstrating some classic farming techniques here in New Zealand. Always entertaining. Um, the afternoon after you get out of the sheep show, that's when you're going to meet the likes of Murray. And Murray, while that's all happening, you'll be driving up the backcountry road from Te Anau to meet these guests. What sort of happens when they walk out from the sheep show?
Oh, typically around that time, it's a visit, a walk through the gift shop, sorry, and a visit to the restrooms, to the toilets. Pretty much almost compulsory because after that we're on the road driving through the backcountry, and there are some toilets along the road, but we always describe them as backcountry toilets, or as my lovely wife Tracy calls them, emergency stops only. So there's a bit of truth in some of that. But yeah, visit to the restrooms, wander through the gift store, and eventually people make their way out. And we're parked just outside the gift store on the gravel road out there, and we gather up our guests and make sure everybody's comfortable, confirm we've got everyone's luggage, and then we're off. And we're into it. It's a very relaxed cruise drive back out through some epic scenery, and even on the slide there, there's some beautiful scenery right from the get-go as you're leaving Walter Peak. You're driving through the farm station, and you continue on around, and you come across the road sits up or 50 or 60 meters up above Lake Wakatipu, and some of the views out over the lake in that early part of the afternoon are just gorgeous. And eventually we pass through the boundary with Walter Peak Station and into Mount Nicholas. Now we've got a few surprises along the way, just something that's a little bit unique. It's very, very Kiwi. We pull over and enjoy the scenery, and we're into storytelling, stories of the countryside, the mountains, the lake itself, the history of the area, epic history, epic families that have lived and loved and died through this region. It's just such fantastic countryside, and the stories actually really support the journey in the countryside as well. And a few stops along the way as we make our way up the Vaughan River Valley through the middle part of the afternoon. Gorgeous stop at what's more or less referred to as the cookhouse, an old stone building, which is a leftover from the time frame when the Mount Nicholas homestead was actually further inland away from the lakeshore. But then with the arrival of steam vessels plying their trade on the waters of Lake Wakatipu, it didn't make sense for the homestead to be so far away from the lakeshore. So everything was packed up and moved down towards the lake. So throwbacks to history, livestock. We're coming into the lambing and the calving season, and by November there'll be fresh lambs and newborn calves galloping around the countryside as we drive through. In fact, it's my favourite time of the year, springtime, because everything just starts to come back to life after winter, and the place is just stunning. You can be driving through one day in the morning, or even in the morning, and there's no snow up on the mountainsides, and you come back out in the afternoon and the weather's flipped and it's snowing up on the tops and occasionally snowing down to ground level as we've gone through as well on the odd occasion. So yeah, just wonderful scenery, and an area that I've been traveling into now for over 40 years. I kind of discovered it. I have a bit of a passion for fishing, and I was looking on some road maps. I had a book of road maps many years ago. This was pre-internet days, folks. So I was scanning the road maps and following the roads and the tracks, and I came across this road and I thought, oh my goodness, knew nothing about it. So I started asking questions and doing more exploring, and then eventually, didn't take me long, a few days later, and I was loading up my four-wheel drive with all my fishing gear and heading in there. And ever since then, that is over 40 years ago, it's been pulling me back in there. It's just such stunning valleys, stunning scenery.
How many fish have you caught at the on the Von River or near the lake there, Murray, while you've been paid by Lux Tours? Just out of interest, I'm just asking.
I can neither confirm nor deny on the grounds that I might incriminate myself, and you'll bring out that policy of no fishing again.
Yeah, I've never seen the tax revenue of the fish delivered to the boss, but anyway, um, maybe this season. Murray, on day two, we pick up the guests around 7:30, bit of an early start, but we sort of get ahead of the crowds heading through to Milford Sound. Um, is that, do you see quite an advantage in leaving
Oh,
early?
absolutely. Yeah, we from November onwards, Milford Sound just starts to get busier. The place starts pumping. We love it because we're coming out of a quiet off season, so to speak, through our winter time. Not as many people visiting the area, but by November, the place is starting to pick up, and the pulse is really starting to pump. So with a 7:30 start heading into Milford Sound for a 10:30 cruise, there's a couple of stops along the road, but effectively what we're doing at that point is getting ahead of the flow of traffic that's especially coming around from Queenstown, but also people that have journeyed round to stay in Te Anau for the night and are also getting out of bed and getting on the road as well. So we're in front of the majority of that traffic. It's not to say that we're out on the road alone. We're not, but it's a wonderful time of the day to be travelling into Milford Sound. You get that early morning light. I was very fortunate earlier this year. I was actually on day two of a Walter Peak tour. It was my birthday, and I was approaching a place called Cascade Creek, and I saw a little bit of wildlife, a bird on the side of the road, and I thought, my goodness, what's that weka doing on the side of the road? But it was an unusual colouring, and as I got a little bit closer, I was slowing down because I wanted to give the guests the chance to see this particular bird without chasing it into the forest. And then I realised as I got to within about 50 metres of it that it wasn't a weka. A weka is a relative to the kiwi, our iconic kiwi here in New Zealand. It was actually a kiwi sitting on the side of the road on my birthday, and my knees went all weak, my heart rate sped up, and I just really had to slow down because I was going to run off the road. But that was my first experience of a wild kiwi in the wild. I've seen them previously in captivity, but to see one on the side of the road early in the morning, when I say early, it would have been 8:45, just after 9 a.m., and that's unusual behaviour for a kiwi. They're typically a very nocturnal bird, at least here on the mainland anyway, and they're off to bed by that time. So it was very, very special. In fact, it was something I'll take with me for the rest of my life, really. It was absolutely stunning experience. So yeah, you're on the road in front of the main flow of the traffic, but make no bones about it, all roads in this part of the world lead to Milford Sound, and by the time we get you there in the morning, there will be other people coming in for the early morning cruises as well, arriving in at Milford Sound around the same time that we do, but the place is not as overwhelmed in the mornings as it is a bit later in the middle of the day. The midday cruises are the more popular ones. So we're kind of, 2 or 3 hours ahead of that. And then you're off out cruising for a couple of hours, cruising out onto Milford Sound. And again, you get that early morning to midday lighting out there on the fjord, not dissimilar to what you can see on the slide there in front of us. So yeah, just a wonderful time of the day to be travelling into Milford Sound, beating the crowds, coming back off the cruise just at 12:30, and then I'm going to pass over to you, Toby, because you're going to share an update on the Walter Peak tour, the Milford leg of it, anyway.
Yeah, I was just firstly going to say, I hope that Tracy, your wife, isn't on the webinar and hearing that another type of bird got you all weak at the knees, Murray. But
Oh, absolutely.
what what a fantastic experience! Something that a lot of us would wish for. I think I've seen about 6 kiwi in the wild in my entire lifetime. We've spent quite a bit of time, I guess, in the bush, like many of our guides, and it's pretty rare to come across a kiwi. You've certainly got to be in the right place at the right time. So, like Murray mentioned, we're bringing a new addition to this tour. So, last year on the Milford Sound cruise, our guests would come on and have something to eat or lunch that they could add to their tour on the boat. And that lunch ended up being around 11 a.m. And it just didn't quite sort of feel right to us that we'd be eating lunch necessarily that early. Some feedback we heard is, or questions we get asked a lot from people is there any way to go to Pio Pio Restaurant, which is Milford Sound Lodge? There's effectively one restaurant or one accommodation building in Milford Sound for the public. It's called Milford Sound Lodge, and it has the restaurant Pio Pio. There is a cafe as well for those wanting just something a wee bit lighter or to go. But Pio Pio is a beautiful restaurant in a nice setting, tucked in amongst the forest in Milford Sound, with views out to the Clethai River, out towards Milford Sound, the mountains surrounding in that area. So we are stopping at Pio Pio Restaurant now. So when guests get off the cruise at 12:30, we will be heading to Pio Pio, where reserved seating and table will be put aside by the team at Milford Sound Lodge. You will walk in, and earlier in the day, as you're driving into Milford Sound, we would have handed you a little card with a menu where you can order an entree, a main, and a drink. That's all included in your tour. So when you turn up to the restaurant at 12:30, the likes of Murray will walk you in, introduce you to the Milford Sound Lodge team, excuse me, and you'll sit down, and the meal will be served very shortly after, so it flows seamlessly. And we'll stay in Milford Sound for about an extra 90 minutes. And one of the really unique parts of this is, as other tours and people are buzzing past on the road leaving Milford Sound, we will just be sitting there in amongst nature, enjoying a bit more time in that stunning area. And that's very, very rare. It's typically only South Drive guests that would get to go to Milford Sound Lodge that would have the time. There are not many tours at all that would pop into Pio Pio Restaurant for a good 90 minutes to enjoy a meal. So, really looking forward to bringing that addition to the tour this year. After the tour, Murray, after lunch, Murray, we get back in the van and we head back to Tiano. And I guess a lot of people would think, oh, we'll just drive back, but that's certainly not the case. I guess it's where Lux Tours, in a way, gets the opportunity to shine a wee bit and take you to some of our favourite off the beaten track local spots along the Milford Road, and we actually get to enjoy, for some people, what is actually their favourite part of the experience.
Yeah, we kind of this is sometimes where the journey back to Tiana really starts, and it's a leisurely drive back out. Some of it's related to what the weather's doing on the day. Some of the stops are stunning one day and then overwhelmed by rainfall or something like that the next day. And I guess one of the stops I'm thinking about with that respect is Mirror Lakes. If it's absolutely pouring down and blowing it as we're coming through Mirror Lakes, it can be a bit of a washout. It's still a beautiful area to wander along and enjoy the wildlife and the scenery there. But what we've got is the ability to bypass it, for instance, in the morning, or stop there in the morning on the way into Milford Sound. If the weather's perfect and the conditions are perfect, the mirror images on the surface of the water there can be absolutely stunning and fabulous. On the other hand, if it's raining and blowing in the morning, but I've looked at the weather forecast and kind of thought, well, it's going to be pretty good this afternoon. Well, we just flip it and do it on the way back out in the afternoon. And so some of our stops are a little bit weather dependent. Some of them, it really doesn't matter what the weather's doing. You just get out and I'll throw an umbrella at you and you put that up and you just take it on the chin and enjoy it and love it. I've had some days where I've finished the tour, my feet are soaking, there's been water running down my neck, and I'm looking at the guests that have been with me for the day, and they look like I feel. And I say, how's your day been? And unanimously, the voices are just, oh, it's been amazing. It's fantastic. It's stunning. And all this descriptive words come out, and no one's really worried about the fact that they got a little bit wet. Because frankly, without the rain in Fiordland, the place would be, well, it just wouldn't be Fiordland. It wouldn't be Milford Sound. The rainfall is what provides some of this epic scenery that we'll be sharing with you.
Yeah, it's certainly such a beautiful drive back. And the thing I think we found last year, Murray, was just a lot quieter coming back
Oh yeah,
around that sort of 1:30, 2 o'clock time when the majority, and we're talking thousands of people, are actually in Milford Sound on a cruise. We're
we
actually getting ahead of them.
the way it played out last season is that we often find ourselves between the major flows of traffic. Once again, it's not to say that there's no vehicles out there, because through that through our summer season, our busiest part of the year, there's a lot of people self-driving, and they're able to design their own tour, really, come and go and stop and wander, go for a walk, come back and get back on the road and travel along, and perhaps sometimes even do another short walk. So we're sharing the road with those sorts of folks. And that, I mean, sharing the road's never an issue anyway, because obviously we all have to do that. But yeah, it's a very relaxed, casual journey back out. Occasionally I hear the odd snore coming from the back seat, but that's okay. Anyone that gets caught snoring is on van cleaning duty at the end of the day. That's the rules. That's the law here in New Zealand.
As long as it's not you snoring, Murray, anyone can clean the van.
True.
So back to Te Anau. That night, again, folks, dinners are the only things we don't include in the tour, just because we feel people will want to go and find restaurants and find a local bite. As I said earlier, we recommend some places to you. We give you a wee Te Anau food guide that you can carry with you and go and find some different sorts of Kiwi options. Day 3 a.m., Murray, we pick up the guests reasonably early. We aim to get them back to Walter Peak around 11:45 a.m. via the back road. If people are coming back with us, should they feel like they're going to see the same exact scenery as they go back towards Walter Peak?
Um, the answer is yes and no. Having come out on the first day, driven up the valley, when we go back in the morning, you're really, the coach has turned around 180 degrees, and you're experiencing the journey, the view and the vision from the opposite direction. And I've had people, as I've been taking them back in the morning and approaching Walter Peak to put them back on the Earnslaw to go back to Queenstown, and I'm trying to convince them that I've just brought them back in on the same road that I brought them out on a couple of days prior to that. And they just, more often than not, they just don't believe me. They said, no way that's the same road. And I said, well, it kind of is. So, and you can say the same about the journey into Milford Sound, actually. You drive into Milford Sound and then turn around and come back out on the same road. And very often you just have the experience of seeing the scenery from traveling in the opposite direction. And it just adds another level of value to the whole thing, I think. So yeah, and take it from me, there'll be things that you'll see on day 2 traveling back in that might be weather related. Again, it might have been cloudy on the afternoon that we brought you out, for instance. We bring you back in a day or two later and the sun's shining, and oh my goodness, it lights up the mountainsides, and the shadows and the lighting through those valleys is just phenomenal. So yes, it is back on the same road, but it very often doesn't feel like the same journey.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually my favorite way is going into Walter Peak.
Mm-hmm.
Just when you come into that Von Valley at the start and just seeing it open up so expansively in front of you. Yeah, incredible. So once we get back to Walter Peak, so it's time to get back on the Earnslaw. The Earnslaw arrives back at Walter Peak to pick you up around 11:45. We again tag your bags with our Lux Tours luggage tags. We get that onto the boat along with the Real NZ staff for you. You don't have to worry about it. It's all organised. You, meanwhile, are given tickets, another little opportunity to have a wee look around the gift store at Walter Peak, and then eventually they'll call for the boarding of the Earnslaw, and it departs around 12 p.m. To head back over to Queenstown. And it's about a 45-minute trip on the boat. On the beautiful steamship, and then you arrive back in Queenstown, and that's it. Your bags are removed from the Earnslaw, they are passed back to you, and you head on your way. It's quite a good time that the tour finishes around about sort of 1 o'clock. You'll be walking away from the Earnshaw area. It gives you good access to flights if you're leaving Queenstown after that. So perhaps you're flying to the likes of Christchurch, Wellington, or Auckland. Maybe if you're from Australia, you're heading on a direct flight back towards Australia. And most of those flights, or there's going to be good flight availability, around 3, 4, 5 p.m., especially with domestic flights within New Zealand, but also Australian flights. A lot of them actually depart around 4:35, 6. The Earnshaw and our tour runs to a very strict schedule, so the Earnshaw does not miss a beat. It is arriving right on the minute that it's meant to. So the time that we provide to you that the tour finishes is the time that the tour finishes. Now, I'll caveat that with one question that we often get is what happens if it's absolutely pouring with rain and the river crossings that we have to do or the weather conditions mean that we can't actually come in via the back road? Well, our backup solution is just to drive you around to Queenstown via that main road that we mentioned earlier. So we can avoid the back road if we need to. Yes, you would miss out on the Earnshaw, but if we can't get in via this road safely for you or our van, then we will take you around to Queenstown and we can drop you to wherever you need to be. And the travel time is actually very similar from Te Anau. It's about 2 hours to Queenstown via the main road or 2 hours to Walter Peak via the backcountry. So you'd actually, in that scenario, get back to Queenstown earlier than taking the Earnshaw. Murray, we've had a shout out from Deanne who was on your tour on Saturday. Loved our tour on Saturday with Murray with a big love heart. So we've got a super fan
Love
there.
you too, Deanne.
We've got a question which we might just address here. What do you do if we have a rental car when you depart for the tour? Recommended parking in Queenstown. So, folks, uh, put simply, Queenstown's a wee bit of a nightmare when it comes to parking. So, if you have a rental car that you are still hiring through the 3 days of this tour, we have a big public car park that we can send you to that we can recommend. And then it's either about a 10 to 15 minute walk to the departure point, or it's about a 3 to 4 minute Uber or taxi ride. That's a public car park that costs about $30 per day. There is another one closer to town, which is a wee bit more secure, but you're talking $70, $80 a day. The alternative option, what we do in New Zealand is we park on the side of the street outside someone's house, and that's absolutely fine. Queenstown's a very safe place. And the other thing you need to think about with a rental car is if something did happen to the rental car, it's a rental car. You should have that insurance coverage. Don't take insurance advice from us, of course. But like if something happened to your car that's not your fault, then there's probably some coverage that you can look into with your rental car hire. But Queenstown, very, very safe place. You can leave a car on the side of the street in a residential street, and it should be absolutely fine for 2 nights. Just want to talk about the value and the cost of the tour. So, hands up, this is a more expensive tour option than a day tour. The option with no accommodation included is $1,099, and the option with the accommodation included this season is effectively 1,800 New Zealand dollars. But what I would say is that we're talking 3 days here, so about $600 a day if you're having the accommodation, and of course your accommodation is included. Accommodation is very expensive in the summer season in both Queenstown and Te Anau. A typical hotel room in Te Anau is going to be something like $450 to $650 for a couple in most of the 4-star up hotels in Te Anau. So you're getting pretty good value there with the accommodation included. But if we think about everything that's added in here, it actually would be very difficult for you to do this same tour, self driving. First of all, you can't drive the backcountry road in a rental vehicle. You're not allowed. Typically, most rental car companies will not allow you to take them on gravel roads, and especially crossing the rivers that we have to cross. We would not recommend that. But if you actually add up each segment of the tour, the Earnshaw, the buffet lunch, the accommodation, the full Milford Sound day tour, the lunch at Pia Pia restaurant, the scenic stops, and the return on the Earnshaw from Walter Peak on day 3, we feel there's a lot of value in this package. And it's a really unique way to experience Milford Sound but just slow down and put your feet up basically for 3 days and let the likes of Murray and our fantastic guiding team kind of do the heavy lifting for you. The hotel is the Distinction Hotel and Villas in Tiano. It's a four-star hotel. As part of your stay there, we also include two buffet breakfasts as part of that, one each morning. So one before you go to Milford Sound and one before you get picked up to return on day 3. Each hotel room comes standard with two queen-size double beds and bathroom, TV, all the usual things you'd expect in a hotel. All the hotel rooms that we have are standard facing the garden, but you can select to upgrade to a lake view room that looks out to Lake Tiano when you book on our website. And that's just subject to availability. Murray, do you want to talk through our special baby, the Walter Peak all-wheel drive van?
I guess, what are we now? 2.5, coming up to 3 years in February, operating Lux Tours, and from operating a little sort of 12-seater Mercedes, our very first baby that we were very proud of, and we're often out there polishing and shining it. We've migrated through, evolved through to what is going to become our standard day tour van, which is a 13-seater. But the Walter Peak tour is a 10-seater coach. And you can see, I guess, some of the internal seating options that are there. There's a seat available up front next to the driver, that we'll call that number 10 seat. And then down the back and along the sides of the coach, there's just so much space, leg room, comfort. She's a real wee honey. She handles the road extremely well. And all of our drivers and guides, well, there's quite a bit of competition for this tour because we love it as well. So we're very often, if we can, nudging each other in the ribs and pushing each other out of the way to try and get in there. So it's a fantastic journey. It's a fantastic vehicle. I wouldn't mind betting, and I'm not an expert in this, but I wouldn't mind betting that there's no other vehicle like this one currently on the road, operating and doing any tours in our region with this level of comfort. It's just something that we're also very proud of. Toby, I was going to interject while we were talking about the value of the tour and the hotel options and the meals, and from the previous slide. One of the things that's very often not, I guess, quantified, but we often hear it back from our guests when they jump in one of our coaches to do a tour with us is, oh my goodness, I don't have to drive. And the tour from Queenstown, the journey around, if someone's having to hire a vehicle for a couple of days, and you could really set aside 2 days to come from, you can do it in a day, but you're better to, in my view, to take at least a couple of days from Queenstown to Tiano to Milford. And if you've hired a vehicle, then one of your group, one of whoever you're traveling with, or the individual traveling, has to do the driving themselves. And I can't speak enough about the fact that, you know, that one person that's doing that driving in many cases is carrying a little bit of a burden. They've got to navigate the road safely, find the parking, do all sorts of things, and they're missing out on so much of the scenery because they've got to focus in on road safety and keep heading in the right direction despite all the electronic support you can get nowadays. But yeah, getting out of a vehicle and just getting into one of our vehicles, the Walter Peak Tour coach, it's just time to sit back and relax and don't have to worry about doing any driving for the next 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's this is not to scare people or anything like that, but the fire siren here in Tiano, the firefighters obviously head up the Milford Road, unfortunately, quite a bit, particularly this time of year. It went off 3 times today, and it always makes me think, please don't be a Milford Sound tourist. Someone driving to Milford Sound because yeah, it's such a big day from Queenstown, and our guides, they're doing it day in, day out, but they're well trained on the road at managing their fatigue, at managing their well-being throughout the day. But someone who's come in from overseas, maybe the day before, or a couple of days before, and flown into Queenstown, and then is driving 8 to 9 hours from Queenstown return, boy, that's a big day. So yeah, great advice. Why this tour? So I guess I'll just summarize. Excuse me. The big benefits of this tour. So definitely a chance to get off the beaten track, and I would say very few visitors get to experience this road. But I'd also say a lot of New Zealanders would have no idea that this road exists. We have local friends that we talk to say, "Oh gosh, where's that road?" And then they see it and do it, and they think it's absolutely incredible. Um, it's a very immersive tour. So Lord of the Rings stops, backcountry farming stops. Suddenly you come around a corner and you're faced with thousands of sheep. Murray, you had that on one of your tours.
9,000
Yeah, 9,000 sheep.
9,000 merinos wandering down the
How
valley.
crazy is that? Yeah, get some free merino wool. It's pretty expensive these days. Um, going through multiple different stations. Our friends at Mount Nick Station, we pass their place on the edge of Lake Whakatipu. I've got to say, one of my favourite views actually was a photo earlier. Is when you're coming out of Walter Peak Station, heading towards Mount Nick, and you're going alongside the lake, Lake Whakatipu, and looking down towards a place called Glenorchy, another famous Lord of the Rings filming location. So stunning views. The Milford Sound Premium Plus tour that we put in there, the restaurant. It's a really inclusive tour. There's a lot of value built into this. Expert local guides. So when you come on the tour, you are going to end up with the likes of Murray. He is often on that tour. One of our other, I guess you would say, senior guides who are very experienced in driving, but also the history, the commentary, and no matter what day it is, they can find something that's just a wee bit different to go and have a look at. Some of the journey might put you outside of your comfort zone just a wee bit. So, for example, some of the river crossings, generally they're pretty good, but sometimes it's a wee bit of fun. That's why we have the big all-wheel drive
It's
van.
all good as long as you lift your feet, Toby.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a good mop in the van to get the water back out. But yeah, really immersive experience. But the main thing I would say why this tour is the fact that you can slow down and you can see multiple different parts of New Zealand with one guide, with one tour over 3 days. Murray, what's your favourite part of the tour? Either a location or a certain experience in the tour?
Um, just as I'm driving up from along the lake shore, driving through Mount Nicholas, and you start to turn inland and leave the lake behind, and you sort of climb up onto the brow of a hill. You come around the corner, and the Vaughan Valley opens up in front of you. The river's down below on the right hand side. There's mountains on each side of the valley, and that's the country that we're going to be driving into, and it's just gorgeous. There's just no other way to describe it. Yeah, that's when I get to the top of that hill, I'm anticipating because I know what's around the next corner, and it's not dissimilar to the comments of wow and oh my god that we get when we're driving through to Milford Sound. In fact, those things are pretty common on all of our tours through Fiordland. You come around a corner, Mother Nature's just turned it on at that moment, or there's a bit of wildlife, or as is the case with the Vaughan River Valley, there's 9,000 merinos coming down out of the backcountry to come in and be shorn and made ready for the coming winter season at the end and during the autumn when they have to manage their stock out of their high country grazing. It's just phenomenal. There's no other way of describing it.
Yeah, it's such a unique part of that journey is the station life and getting to sort of witness it
Mm.
firsthand from the inside out as you're going through, and you just never know what you're going to come across, whether it's going to be a sheep or some cows or even some deer that just randomly decide to cross the road at any point. There's a wee story on that one, folks, but you have to come on the tour to find out. Um, I won't delve into it here; it's probably not appropriate.
Last year, I was driving back out one afternoon, and we were about halfway up the valley, and the cattle were still giving birth to calves. And I was driving along, and there was one of the beautiful ladies on the farm property. This cow was giving birth, and she actually had her calf was yeah, she was halfway through the process of birthing. The calf was Mother Nature was being taken care of, and I managed to stop sort of just beside her, and everyone in the coach was glued to the scene that was just out the windows. And that beautiful cow turned around and looked me right in the eye as if to say, "My God, you had just really had to do this to me at this moment, Murray." And it was honestly, I mean, you know, these things don't talk English, they don't talk any language at all, but the message was well and truly received by me as I was sitting there. So we just gave folks the opportunity to, I guess, experience that at the moment. And then I said, might be time to give this beautiful lady some privacy, and we carried on up the road. But yeah, the look on her face was, get out of here.
Gosh, how much more off the beaten track could you get, folks? Hey, team, we have the opportunity for Q&A. We don't have any questions at the moment. We've answered a couple as we've gone, but feel free to put any questions into the chat, and we'll come back to that if there is any questions. Still wanting more info. So look, I completely understand as the owner of Lux Tours and as having been a guide on the tour as well, but also talking and working with our guests day in, day out at Lux Tours. We do get a lot of questions, and we do get some people feeling a wee bit overwhelmed about the tour, and it's quite a big tour, the price, but also the 3 day aspect. So just putting it out there that if you would like to discuss more about the tour, there is the opportunity to have a chat with me on the phone. I'm more than happy to give up sort of 15-20 minutes and talk you through, answer any questions that you have, whether it relates to getting to Queenstown, parking in Queenstown, flights, getting to the departure point, luggage, food, accommodation, anything. We're more than happy to sit down and have a chat over the phone, or I'm happy to do that with you. So you can organise that with us by just emailing bookings@luxtours.co.nz. The email address is up on the screen there. Just send us a message and say that you are keen to have a chat on the phone. Provide your phone number, and we'll organise a time with you in your own country time, obviously, to make contact. Just while I'm sitting here, going to put up the QR code on the top right of the screen there. That'll take you to the tour. You'll find a lot of the information that we've talked about today or tonight. On that web page, you can get deeper into the pricing and also see add-ons that you can do, such as helicopter tours, glowworm tours, as well as a few other options there. Doesn't look like we have any questions. Absolutely fine. Just want to say a big thank you, first of all, to you, Murray, for joining us once again. I promise I won't rope you into the next webinar. You can have a break for a while. We might get you back later in the year, maybe along with some of our other guides. For those of you who are wanting more information about Lux Tours, so luxtours.co.nz is the website. You can email us anytime at hello@luxtours.co.nz or bookings@luxtours.co.nz. On our website, you'll find a lot of information. We have over 100 articles and over 30 videos full of information about Milford Sound. Also, we do have an e-guide, just putting the QR code up for that on the top right of the screen there. That e-guide is over 30 pages of free information. You don't even have to put your email in to get it. You can just click download on our website. That has been very popular for people planning their journey to Milford Sound. Thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. Hopefully this has been helpful. Obviously we're focused on a tour that we run, but we think it's a pretty unique way to experience Milford Sound. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a great morning or night wherever you are in the world, and we hope to see you again on our next webinar. Thanks, team.
Bye, folks.